I feel like this has been a long time coming. I'm not sure why it took so long to get here, but Fire Pro Wrestling 2nd Bout has arrived to prove that this franchise has legs, and it's gonna kick you with them. The original Fire Pro Wrestling was released over 2 years before this, and that game was a huge hit. A pro wrestling game that was so obviously superior to any other one available that it demanded that people rethink their approach to the genre. And 2 years later, no one else really has. Fire Pro Wrestling becomes the definitive pro wrestling game series in Japan in the 90s. 18 Fire Pro games were released in that decade, and even though it was petering out toward the end there, the Fire Pro franchise cast a long shadow. And Fire Pro Wrestling 2nd Bout isn't the point where things explode. The franchise really takes off when it gets onto the Super Famicom, and it arrives there in the 1991 holiday season. The PC Engine games kind of wind up being the prototype Fire Pro. But when you consider how bad other pro wrestling games were at that point, it's still a huge step up. The big innovation for Fire Pro Wrestling is that it is not about button mashing. All of the moves are really about timing. There's a moment in the grapple when the wrestlers dip their knees, and if you can input your move right before that, and beat your opponent in that activation window, then you'll do that throw or submission hold or toss them against the ropes or whatever special move you were trying to do. If you input the command too early, well, then there's a delay before it'll accept another command from you. And that means mashing the buttons guarantees you won't be able to pull off any move. This system works great when you're playing against a human opponent. Against a computer that can have perfect timing every time? Well, that's actually a bit of a problem. Now, the good news is if you play single player, the game does give you a window in which you can perform your moves. It's a small window, maybe a tenth of a second, but it's a window you can learn. If you practice Fire Pro Wrestling 2nd Bout for an hour or so, then you'll probably have the timing down well enough that you can win a few matches. It's just that, like a modern fighting game, this is really designed around playing against another human being. And if you want to get the most out of Fire Pro Wrestling, you should have a friend handy to play it with. For the controls, button 1 and 2 when you're not in a grapple will do some kind of attack, though there's variations among the wrestlers, so some of them only have kicks, some of them have punches. Every wrestler has their own set of moves, which definitely gives everybody personality. In the grapple, button 2 generally throws someone away from you, button 1 generally flips them around you. And of course, once they're on the ground, you walk over them and press button 1 to pin. If you're playing in a tag team match, you have to go to your corner and hit buttons 1 and 2 simultaneously in order to switch. Though they'll also come out on their own to help you if you get put into a submission hold. There are 20 wrestlers for you to choose from in Fire Pro Wrestling 2nd Bout, but almost half of them aren't accessible right from the start. You'll either have to use a cheat code or do well at the game to play them. All of the wrestlers are very recognizable caricatures of real-world wrestlers, though some become more recognizable once they're in the ring. I am disappointed that Cyber doesn't wear his weird armor in the ring, and similarly, Star Bison loses the cowboy hat. There are 4 different game modes available for you, and they're not exactly named in the most convenient way. The Excite series is where you go for an exhibition match, a single matchup. You can choose to make it a best of series where you play multiple times, and you can adjust how long a match goes on for. There's also a selection for a lumberjack match, which just means you can't lose if you get thrown out of the ring and don't get back in time. The World Champion Series is the proper single-player mode. Pick out your wrestler, and then beat up every other wrestler in the game. You don't have any control over what type of matches you're playing here. Those are set as you climb the ladder. And if you lose a match, then you have 3 continues. Since a match can easily go on for 10 minutes, this is a very long mode to beat. Super Tournament puts 16 wrestlers together in a single elimination tournament. You and up to 15 additional friends can pick out which wrestler they're playing as, and then you watch the whole thing play out. Every match gets played in full, even if there's no human participant. Finally, there's the elimination match. You and an opponent take turns picking out a team of 5 wrestlers. Each wrestler plays until they're defeated by a wrestler from the opposing team. The winner is the last team standing. As far as I can tell, damage doesn't carry over between matches, so you can't wear down a tough opponent, you just have to beat them straight up. Unsurprisingly, I could find plenty of fans of Fire Pro Wrestling's second bout in Japan. Plenty of people reminiscing about playing with their friends, and also remembering how it was very difficult to play against the computer. As someone who isn't a fan of wrestling games, well, Fire Pro Wrestling's second bout isn't really my thing, and I can see it as an incremental improvement over the first game. The animations are cleaner, there's more moves, more wrestlers. I think the timing for performing moves has been improved. It's a fine update. But it's also nothing that's going to convince somebody who didn't care too much about the first one to really get into the second. I think it's still very heavily dependent on multiplayer. If you're just playing by yourself, then you might have some more difficulty finding the fun here. Still, even with that caveat, I can say that Fire Pro Wrestling 2nd Bout is the best wrestling game so far on the PC Engine, taking that Champions belt from Fire Pro Wrestling.